Dear viewers, this is part 2 of the 3-part series on overweight under Prescribon Medical Education series. Taken together, these are likely to be the major factors driving the recent increase in obesity. It is important to remember, however, that a substantial proportion of the populace remains normal weight under these circumstances, and a large part that is attributable to their genetic good fortune. We have often seen that some people with comparable body habitus can afford to eat more without gaining weight. But we cannot afford to eat that much unless we are prepared to put on weight. This is because people who can afford to eat more and still not gain weight have their basal metabolic rate turned to a slightly higher rate than ours due to their genetic pattern. In other words, they burn up more food to achieve comparable calories of energy. Note, basal metabolic rate (BMR) is the number of calories you burn as your body performs basic, that is basal life-sustaining functions. Exposures early in life, either in utero, that is inside your mother's uterus, or in early postnatal life, first few years of life, might program individuals to develop obesity through effects that are often attributed to epigenetics. Note, epigenetics is the study of how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. Unlike genetic changes, epigenetic changes are reversible and do not change your DNA sequence, but they can change how your body reads a DNA sequence. And dear listeners, by the way, this educational video is made possible by Prescribon, the makers of e-prescription software for digital prescriptions available freely for doctors on the website www.prescribon.com. Doctors who are interested in this e-prescription can freely avail of its vast collection of more than 100,000 e-prescriptions. Continuing on our discussion, remember that most mothers in good faith constantly worry about their child not eating enough. They always fret about the fact that my child has no interest in eating food. They tend to forget two great facts. One, that hunger is a basic instinct necessary for survival, and the child will definitely eat what is required. Two, nowadays most children generally eat and fill up their stomach with what is nutritionally empty calories like sweets, chocolates, ice cream, fruit juices, and fat-rich fried items, etc., and not what is nutritionally appropriate like wholesome, bran-rich cereals, vegetables, and fruits. Hence, it is important to see that mothers understand that the child is best left to decide the quantity of food that it likes to eat, but gently but firmly control the quality and the type of food that the child is allowed to eat. Diet. Human history has mostly seen undernourishment and malnutrition. Famine and diseases were very common. So the adaptive mechanisms of the body over centuries worked to conserve and store extra food as fat as a defense against famine. This mechanism has now become unfavorable because of easy availability of large portions of foods, king-sized combo meals, processed foods, and energy drinks. As economy improves and personal income increases, food consumption also increases, especially high-calorie foods, animal-based foods, fats, and carbohydrate. Intake of plant-based food decreases. A key element of this dietary change is the increased intake of saturated animal fats. Fats. Fat cells, that is adipocytes, store triglycerides. The fat cells, that is called adipocytes, of adipose tissue or modified fibroblasts that store almost pure triglyceride in quantities as great as 80 to 95% of the entire cell volume. Triglycerides inside the fat cells are generally in a liquid form. Hypothalamus control. Hypothalamus senses energy storages through the actions of leptin, a peptide hormone released from adipocytes. When the amount of adipose tissue increases, signaling excess energy storage, the adipocytes produce increased amounts of leptin, which is released into the blood. Leptin then circulates into the brain and occupies leptin receptors in the hypothalamus, as well as neurons in other areas of the brain, including the brainstem. Stimulation of leptin receptors in these central nervous system nuclei initiates multiple actions that possibly decrease fat storage. Why does not leptin prevent obesity? Leptin is known to suppress food intake and its levels rise as fat stores expand. So, why does this not prevent us from becoming obese? The most plausible explanation lies in the evolutionary history of leptin and the fact that it appears to defend strongly against the loss of body fat stores. Fall in circulating leptin below a person's habitual level, being a powerful stimulus to food intake. But the response to rises in leptin above the normal level is less pronounced. At higher levels of leptin, administering extra amounts of the hormone may have no discernible effect at all, a phenomenon that has come to be called leptin resistance. In other words, the body's control mechanisms against excessive fat accumulation somewhat ignores this rise in leptin levels. Hence, the person continues to eat as usual instead of decreasing food intake. Reducing total energy intake. Reduce fat intake, that is, fat rich foods have the highest energy density, that is 9 calories per gram. They also have poor satiating effects and so tend to encourage overeating. Fat should provide less than 15 to 30% of total energy intake. In most industrialized countries, it accounts for 40%. Carbohydrate and protein have energy density of only 4 calories per gram. The initial target should be a 10% loss of starting weight. Strategy at food time. Eat slowly. Take at least 15 minutes for major meals, for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Take small portions of food. Munch each mouthful at least 25 times so that the food becomes a creamy paste. Sometimes even a sweet taste may be noticeable and then only swallow. The duration of 15 minutes is important because it takes some time for the satiety centers to feel a sense of satisfaction. A 10% weight loss may take several months. Weight loss by a small but tolerable change in lifestyle is much more likely to be maintained than weight lost by a crash diet. As weight falls, resting energy expenditure also declines. Resting energy requirement depends on the body weight. A leaner person needs lesser energy at rest than an obese person. At the same dietary levels, initially the body weight may decrease more. Later, as the body weight becomes less, the same amount of food may result in lesser body weight decrease or even the same body weight. Hence, dietary restrictions may have to be carefully adjusted a bit lesser as tolerated by the person. Remember, months of careful dietary restriction may easily be compensated by a few days of careless overeating. All types of fats or oils have the same energy density, that is 9 calories per gram, and therefore equally obesity maintaining. Vegetable oils, polyunsaturated oils, example sunflower oil, or monounsaturated oils like olive oil are preferred to saturated animal fat. Vegetable oils are unsaturated oils and contain no cholesterol. Unsaturated oils lower body's atherosclerosis contributing LDL, that is bad cholesterol. Animal fats contain saturated fats and cholesterol. Saturated fats increase the level of atherosclerosis contributing LDL cholesterol. The cholesterol content in various foods in milligrams per 100 gram. Meat 73 milligram, chicken 88 milligram, pork 80 milligram, eggs. A whole egg 373 milligram per 100 gram, but per egg 200 milligram. Fish 63 milligram, vegetable oils 0 milligram. Ideally, animal fats should be avoided altogether. At the very maximum, they should comprise no less than 10% of total energy intake. The lesser, the better. Obesity results from greater intake than expenditure of energy. When greater quantities of energy in the form of food enter the body than are expended, the body weight increases and most of the excess energy is stored as fat. Therefore, excessive adiposity, that is obesity, is caused by energy intake in excess of energy output. For each 9.3 calories of excess energy that remains in the body, approximately 1 gram of fat is stored. Fat is stored mainly in adipocytes, in subcutaneous tissue, and in the intraperitoneal cavity, although the liver and other tissues of the body often accumulate significant amount of lipids in obese persons. New adipocytes can differentiate from fibroblast-like pre-adipocytes at any period of life, and that the development of obesity in adults is accompanied by increased numbers as well as increased size of adipocytes. An extremely obese person may have as many as 4 times as many adipocytes, each containing twice as much lipid as a lean person. For a person to lose weight, energy intake must be less than the energy expenditure. Decreased physical activity and abnormal feeding regulation as causes of obesity. The causes of obesity are complex. Although genes play an important role in programming the powerful physiological mechanisms that regulate food intake and energy metabolism, lifestyle and environmental factors may play a major role in many obese people. The rapid increase in the prevalence of obesity in the past 20 to 30 years emphasizes the important role of lifestyle and environmental factors because genetic changes could not have occurred so rapidly. Still, genetic factors may predispose many people to the environmental influences that are driving the rising prevalence of obesity in most industrialized and developing countries. Dear viewers, this is the end of part 2 on the 3-part series on overweight. Thank you for watching.